So I'd like to say welcome to this inaugural episode of Sit Down with SymTrain. I am Erin Wilson, your host for the entire series. And today we are going to answer the question of, can we change agent behavior with AI-powered coaching? Now, to answer that question, I am really excited to have our guest here today. Her name is Melanie Flores, and she has spent her entire career helping people learn, sometimes children, sometimes adults. She has a passion for building something new, so it's no surprise that she joined a bleeding edge solution like SymTrain over 2 years ago. Melanie passionately helps businesses try something new, novel, and dare I say, a little bit playful using AI-powered coaching. Fresh offers speaking engagement at ATD. We are super excited to have her here today to share how technology is transforming the way we train and coach. Welcome, Melanie. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Erin. It's an honor to be here.
Well, I am honored to have you here because you just spent a week out at the Association for Talent Development, which is where I actually got to meet you in person for the first time. And I want to hear from your perspective, what was the overall vibe at ATD?
Vibe is a good word. It was vibrant. It's the ATD is the world's largest, most comprehensive event for talent development, that conference. And so the room was huge. There were way more businesses there that I remember seeing at any other conference that I've been to. And everyone was just a buzz.
And just excited about learning. That's what really struck me, is that all these people were just there to try to help their colleagues, their employees, their peers just get better. And I wonder, like, how much of a role is technology playing in these solutions that people are crafting?
Oh, goodness, it's playing a huge role, whether you're using technology to create your learning, deploy it, or to identify where the gaps are. It's endemic. It's in everything now.
And I think adult learners specifically are almost expecting technology to be a part of it more than they were maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. In fact, like the biggest thing that I sensed at this conference was FOMO. Like no one wants to be left behind. Everyone wants to know, like, what are people using? We don't want to be the dinosaurs.
That's true. And I walked around the booth myself, and it was everywhere. Like, AI was on way more booths, frankly, than it deserved to be on. But I think that really kind of shows where the market is right now. I mean, we've heard nothing but that on the business station for the last few days, right? With NVIDIA just skyrocketing. So this FOMO, right? If everybody is really, afraid of missing out, how are they going to not get left behind? Like, what is the truth, right? And what are they going to do to make sure that they're ready for this splurge in AI?
So what I saw everyone doing was basically asking questions. Everyone was asking about AI. That was the first thing. Like, when people would come to our booth, they'd say, so how do you use AI? And everyone wanted to hear, like, how can this help me? And how can this help the learners in our organization? I think one of the biggest opportunities you could use AI for is in coaching and actually helping upskill your people.
Okay, so that was going to be my question. Like, just straight up and down, can we actually change agent behavior with AI-powered coaching?
You absolutely can, and we're actually seeing that at SymTrain. We're seeing changes in agent behavior. It's very similar to, like, when you have swimmers and you're like recording their strokes underwater and using, like, your top swimmers' videos and showing it to the other swimmers and saying, here, we're going to do this drill. You can't help but improve their performance. So it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing with AI-powered coaching. You get your top performers and create learning based on their performance.
Okay, so the swimming analogy is interesting. So you're saying that if we pretend a company is like an Olympic swim team, then you're going to have the Michael Phelps of the world, and they're just going to constantly be swimming. And we know what they look like when they swim. We've all seen them. But you're saying today we're not really using them as a prototypical experience for how everybody else should be swimming?
We could be doing that. We should be doing that. I think that if we could actually create drills for all swimmers based on the top swimmers, and then actually, like, have consistent practice where people are actually training to duplicate the techniques of top swimmers, how could they not improve? And it's like the same thing with an organization. Like, step out of the pool into, like, a workplace. If you apply the same principle, how could your people not? How can you not improve if that's what you're modeling your daily practices on?
So it sounds like you're talking about benchmarking, right? If we're just trying to figure out where people are against the best performers or those prototypical performers in our organization, isn't that essentially just a benchmark?
That is a form of benchmarking, absolutely.
Okay, and where does the technology fit into that? Should AI be doing the benchmarking, or should I be bringing these benchmarks to the company and kind of saying this is where we want to start?
You can use AI to do the benchmarking. Like, for example, you could create simulations based on like a job skill that is important that everyone master, and actually have your entire workforce perform that simulation. And then you'll see there's probably a bell curve of where your people are, and you'll see that some of your people are a lot better at that than others. And that, first of all, that's how you benchmark your entire population. But then you can start crafting exercises based on those top performers.
Okay. So where does the role of like traditional quality tools play in this? Because with call centers, right, there's the automatic quality management has been a big place where AI, I think, is already plugged into the call center, right? It's been there. It's doing a really good job of telling you where it hurts, like who's performing good, who's not doing what they're supposed to, right? But it doesn't help, at least in my experience, it doesn't actually help you fix it. So kind of talk to me about where the tech is and where AI is changing that component of the L&D space.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So right now it'll tell you where it hurts, but it doesn't tell you how to fix it. So where AI could come in is you could actually use it to establish where all of your people fall short, and you can recognize, like, where this person's skill gap is, and assign exercises that target just that skill set where they could use a little more practice and maybe a little boost in performance.
And that's definitely something we're going to want to dig in on a little bit there, is that targeting the specific components of it. Because I think with quality management, there's different segments of a call in the contact center. You got your greeting, and you got your like problem definition, and then you got your try to fix the thing, and then you have to hopefully you don't give them a coupon, right? There's all those components of like how well are you not doing the discounting unnecessarily and whatnot. And what you're saying is that we can pair up so that the AI of your automatic quality management solution can kind of feed into the AI of a coaching solution. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Very neat.
Yeah.
Well, as the audience might imagine, we are a little bit biased towards the SymTrain solution itself, right? Because we do perform just that, right? That AI powered coaching, pre-hire assessment, training, right? That whole component of it, and being delivered as a SaaS solution that we can simulate those pieces, right? So I like to say we stop practicing on our customers.
Yes.
But I want to understand why you think that's so important, right? Why shouldn't we just be, we see the QM tool, we go in, we tell our customers or our agents, and we say, hey, look, you're not doing a good job in your opening, like do better next time. Why is it not enough to just do that, right? Why should they be practicing on a simulation instead of practicing on a customer?
Well, it's funny you say that, because that actually ties in really well with what my fellow presenter at ATD talked about. So Daniel Ray, he actually was with a very large financial institution that uses SymTrain, and he's actually pursuing his PhD. And one of the things that he has that he feels strongly about, and it's backed up by science, is that people take more ownership of their learning when they feel competent and confident. And the way to get that way is to be able to build lots of repetition and build your skill set in a safe, simulated environment. One story that he shared there was when he was learning how to parallel park, like his dad was basically barking in his ear the whole time. And he finally mastered the skill when his dad got out of the car and he was able to do it. The environment got a lot less stressful. And so why wouldn't you want to provide that for your people? It's stressful to practice and perfect your skills with a real, like, paying customer on the phone. Why wouldn't you give them a safe environment where they can practice the heck out of that conversation until they do feel confident and competent?
I think your analogy about swimming from earlier comes into play A little bit here. I mean, I used to teach swim lessons when I was in high school, and everything from like little babies to like adults. And naturally, the adults have more fear, right? Coming into the pool
Mhm.
than a child that thinks it's invincible. You can just dunk it when it's happy, right?
Yeah.
But the adults, I mean, they were very adamant about the fact that they were not going in the deep end if they didn't feel like they could get to the other side of the pool confidently, right? And it was
Mhm.
helping them like with those basic steps of learning how to float, learning how to do this. So your argument is saying that, yes, you might have thrown your agents onto the phones maybe a little before they were ready entirely, right?
Mhm.
Or if there was something that new that came up, right, with your product or service that requires them to sort of have a little bit of retraining and reskilling, that we shouldn't just explain it to them conceptually and then let them go off and try to start swimming, right? That they should actually do a simulation first.
Absolutely. As one thing that our CEO Dan McCann likes to say, no one ever learned how to play basketball in a lecture hall. You just have to get out there.
That's true.
So you just,
That's a fair point. I've never heard anybody say that. I like that. I
but you
like
know,
that.
you have to get people out there, and you have to. And I can't stress enough how providing that safe environment where that you can mess up and you can
Mhm.
correct yourself. That's extremely valuable to actually feeling like you have mastery of the skill.
Okay, so I'm going to take us on faith that this all works, right? That we do this and, we're going to get a different learning and development outcome than we would get otherwise. So I kind of want to walk through those phases of the learning career, if you would, of an agent, and sort
Mhm.
of kind of talk about what the actual business outcomes that we would see along the way. So though I think the first and most obvious, especially the one that came out of the ATD conference, was that initial training and onboarding, right? The learning
Mhm.
and development team tends to be very involved in that. They work hand in hand with the call center operations team. And our overall goal, as I understand it, is time to proficiency, right? How fast from the day we hire to the day that I can put you on the phones and trust that you're not going to embarrass me. So what does, and how does this AI powered tool help us improve that? Does it improve it? Does it not? What results have you actually seen with your customers?
Oh, it absolutely improves it. First of all, when you are onboarding people, the traditional way to provide like practice with customer facing interactions is with role play. So typically you pair and share, you get told to go off in a room and practice this conversation. And if the group is very large and you get, I don't know, half an hour, you might be lucky if you get one repetition in. And maybe you'll get two or three, but that's still maybe after 3 reps. Uh, you may or may not feel ready. The other thing that's problematic about that is anytime a trainer tells people to, break into groups and go role play, are they really doing it? And are they talking about what they're going to be doing for the weekend? Are they, are they saying, "Are you done?" You don't have any idea if they're actually role playing. The role play is usually inconsistent. So from group to group, you have no idea if the quality is consistent. And you also don't know how authentic the role play is. I mean, people tend to they tend to either be too nice and they don't want to embarrass their fellow trainee because this is from a group and everyone's watching, or they take it too far to the extreme and they really ham it up. So it's not really realistic. So
Mhm.
with AI powered coaching, there's so many things that buys you. One, it buys consistency. Two, it buys accountability because you as the trainer can see if they actually did role play. You can see it's digital, so there is a record that you can check to see whether it was done. You can also see how well they did in that role play. You can see how they performed. Um, so all of and then probably I think the biggest factor of all that really gives AI powered coaching a boost. And when it comes to role play is just the sheer number of reps you can build in. I mean, now if you have if you're a trainer and you have 10 people in your group and you tell them to go do role play and each person gets 2 or 3 reps, but now if each person can actually run simulations on their own and each simulation is 5 minutes, they each get tons of reps in the same amount of time that maybe if they had done it the traditional way, they would have only gotten 2 or 3 reps in. So they get far more repetitions.
That makes sense. And I think you really highlighted well some of the problems with doing it the old-fashioned way. I mean, I know I've been on the sides of those sales trainings where I either decide to just put my foot down and I'm going to be that customer that's not going to buy anything ever, right?
Yep.
Or you're the one who's like, yeah, take my money. It doesn't really teach people the skills they need to have. But I do want to kind of get back to what was the actual outcome then. So you told me that time to proficiency was going to change. Do you have a particular customer use case that you can recall where you can give me some numbers around that? Like how much faster were we able to put people on the phone as a result?
Oh yeah, actually, I can give you one recent example. One of our clients, they are an insurance company, and in a past year, they onboarded people the traditional way by having actual classes. So they'd have to line up a trainer, and then they'd have to like assemble classes and group all these people into the classes and make sure that the schedules match. So I think they onboarded. I think they said like 800 trainees over 17 days. And I remember being told that 17 days was because I had to match schedules. Well, they adopted AI powered coaching and they used automated simulations, and they were actually able to onboard 150 people in 2 business days. On the 3rd day, they were ready to take calls. So when you think about that, I mean, yeah, it was 150 versus 800, but still, I mean, just that is amazing. There was 0 scheduling required. Just think of like all the friction that was eliminated by doing it all digitally.
That's an incredible number to go from 17 days to 2 days, right? I think in the email we were like, oh, reduce it by 50%, right? Because you don't want to oversell it, but like, whoa, that is way more than 50%. And it reminds me, you mentioned Daniel Ray. He was your partner during the actual presentation that you had in ATD. And I remember he was talking about how his customers or his agents, right? Those are his customers because he's on the learning and development side, that his trainees actually went from what, 5-6 weeks down to 2 weeks because suddenly they were able to like take the trainings in the first couple of weeks that they were there. They didn't have to first, like you said, learn to play basketball in a lecture hall and then go try to play basketball. We were just like, look, here's the basketball. Like, let's do it and start building that muscle from day one. Like, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it really accelerates. In fact, I remember I love that he shared this story about how one of the women in the class, like it was one of his most standout memories was he remembered this one woman who said she was kind of quiet, but after they had done all the simulations, she basically raised her hand and said, why are we just now doing these? We should have started doing these simulations in week 2 so that we could actually hit the floor and start making the real money faster. Exactly. And then he said that other people joined and said, yeah, so they've actually adopted that. But you get this, here's this woman who just spoke up and, she basically pointed out, I am more proficient faster. And that has an impact on agents' wallets for the better.
And so speaking of wallets, I want to take us to that second phase, right? Because I mean, getting the training team down or the training time to proficiency down by 50%, I think that's incredible. I think that's more than pays for a solution, whether you go SymTrain or any type of AI coaching solution that's out there, more than pays for it. However, even with turnover rates in the 30-40% range at the call center, you only do trainings and onboardings, maybe 12 times a year, right? You're not doing that kind of thing every day, where your supervisors are on the phone, looking at those QA reports, listening to the call recordings, and they're in there trying to coach their customers every day. So I want to understand, like, what is that financial impact? And I think most of the call center customers that I've spoken to, in my previous roles in call center, average handle time is this number that like keeps popping up, right? How much is the average handle time and all of that? So do you think, one, that a solution like this, when we keep calling it coaching, so I feel like the cat's out of the bag there, but I'll let you answer, but like, can this help with that? And then if it does, what kind of financial benefits should I expect in that respect?
Oh, it absolutely can help with that. In fact, so if you think about it, in a call center, there's certain call flow, and the most effective agents are able to manage the call, right? They're controlling the call. And so with simulations, you can ingrain that call flow and all of the different strategies you have for bringing a call that's going off track back on track. So I'd love to actually just share an example. Like one of the examples that Ray shared is they actually did see a huge impact on average handle time.
Oh yeah.
He saw, if I remember correctly, they saw an improvement of 3 to 8%. Basically, the average handle time decreased by 3 to 8%.
That's a lot. I mean, and it doesn't sound like a lot, right? But when you start doing the math, if you've got, I don't know, like a 5-minute call, right? 5 minutes is 300 seconds, right? So if we can reduce it by 5%, that's 15 seconds, and then you start multiplying that out by like, well, how much does an agent make in a minute? Like 25 cents a minute, maybe, and then you multiply that by 100 calls a day for that seat, right? You might have multiple people working that shift, but for the duration the contact center is open, that's about 100 seats. And then you've got 20,000 contact center agents. Like, I know you and I kind of ran through this math, but if I recall correctly, that's like $125,000
a day.
A day, my mistake, a day, right? Like not total, which by the way, would more than pay for like some of the, the solution in a month, let alone, yeah, no, that's incredible. I mean, it's funny how these like little tweaks really make a difference. And I think that's why people have been attracted to AI thus far, is that there's been this promise that we're going to get these outsized returns. But they haven't been coming from the QA solutions. And I think you kind of talked about that a little bit, that you need to actually action on it.
Yes, you do. There's something I want to tag on to what you said too. Like, but it's not just the average. When you reduce your average handle time, yes, there are dollar savings to be realized there, but there's also other intangibles that come along with it. Because if your average handle time is shorter, that means you're resolving customers' concerns faster, which means that's less time they're spending on hold, and so that's going to drive your CSAT up. Yeah,
that's true.
And the overall sense that these people can help me quickly and efficiently, it'll just it just goes up from there.
Yeah, and something you mentioned when you were kind of laying out that proficiency of a good agent that can navigate a phone call, and that's true, they can navigate it, but they can literally navigate it better. I mean, how many times have we been on the phone with somebody that you just hear them breathing while they type, right? It's like painful to listen to. And, it's like you have no choice because you need to let them enter you into the system or you're never going to get on your airplane or whatever, right? So is this, when we're talking about AI, is it just training them on how to navigate the conversation, whether it's chat or voice, or does it, like, should we expect there to be some improvement in the competency of how I do my system navigation as well?
Well, yes, it will. Actually, with SymTrain, you actually learn not only what to say to the customer, but you also get ingrained what you are seeing on your screen and what you're interacting with. But I wanted to let me tag onto that. Like you could actually use AI-powered coaching to help you not just navigate the call better, but actually demonstrate like stronger empathy.
Yeah. Okay.
And also remember how to follow disclosures to the T. Like, let me give an example. One of our most popular use cases is actually empathy sims. I can't tell you how many people came by the booth and said, my people need help with empathy. And I said, you know what? That happens to be one of our most popular uses. I can think of 3 or 4 customers right now who are using our platform for empathy. And what the problem is that when agents hear customers say something, they don't always recognize this customer's telling me something that really deserves a little bit of empathy and like some human connection on my part. So that's one problem. They don't recognize when they're hearing something that warrants an empathetic response. The second problem is they don't know what to say. So even if they do know, wow, this person just told me that, they're struggling with, this kind of family situation, they don't know what to say. So the other part of it is like building muscle memory in your agents on what are some things that we could say that are appropriate and aligned with our industry and with the voice of our company that I could say to let this person know they feel heard. So one of the things that multiple customers are doing is creating empathy sims, and these simulations, they can be as short as 30 seconds. And what you do is you have a customer call in, and they'll rattle off something that is very believable that agents would actually hear in your industry. And then you actually have your agents practice responding with you could outline certain things that you would say, like, this is something you could say, and then have them practice, both hearing and saying those things. And I'll say we have seen huge improvements in that. In fact, like, I'll tell you one anecdote. We have one customer who implemented empathy sims, and after just 1 week of their agents running empathy sims for just 15 minutes a day, just building that muscle memory, one call center agent lifted his scores from like 73% for QA, like his calls were scoring the 73% range for empathy. He started getting 100% empathy scores in QA just after a week. And his story is not unique to him. We're seeing a real change just from those short simulations. It's all that muscle memory, just that consistent time at bat.
Yeah. Well, and if I'm counting correctly, you've identified 4 use cases throughout the course of this conversation, right? The literally, what do I say, right? What is the script or the conversation flow that we want somebody to go through, right? How empathetic am I in actually responding to what I'm hearing the person say, hearing and feeling, right? How compliant am I? Like, are there specific things I need to say at specific times? And how well I navigate the actual system while I'm doing all of this? Like, how well do I walk and chew gum? Is that accurate?
Yep, that's very accurate.
So I think that what you're describing is really believable, because if I'm a contact center agent and I get better and better about navigating the screens, and I'm like little Miss Alt Tab and I can go through everything, right? Now I can actually have the brain power left to, as you said, hear that you need empathy, right? Yes. And then because I'm practiced it, even if I am multitasking, if somebody's like, oh, I can't pay my bill because blah, 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 I might have some canned responses that I've practiced delivering in a non-canned way, that can drive up that. Because I think CSAT is that really big leading indicator of, customer stickiness. And as we enter this economic time period, right, I think we need 2 things: a solution that delivers a kick-ass ROI, hint, hint, right? And a way to retain our customers, right? A way to make sure that we are sticking with the customers we have, so that we can preserve the market share that we've got going into this, going forward. So that, I think, is really, really crucial. We didn't talk too much about reskilling, so I just want to touch on it really briefly, because I know that's that 3rd phase. So we've onboarded our people really fast, 50% reduction in proficiency. We have that 3 to 8% reduction in average handle time during that mid part of the call, just based on coaching. But like, what about reskilling? Like, do we have any customers that are doing that are like trying to kind of retrain at the end, or give people new skills, or help them promote through their careers with the AI-powered coaching product?
We do. In fact, when I think of reskilling, there are a couple different ways that you could interpret that. And one of the ways could be if there's a new process, if there's a process change you're trying to deploy, so that's a form of reskilling. Yep. We do have one client who actually needed to deploy a process change pretty quickly. They were seeing an issue in the field, and they had people, in not only North America, but on the other side of the world in India. And somehow they needed to get everyone doing this certain process a new way. Well, thanks to AI and thanks to digital training, they were able to just create a simulation on, this is how we need to do this moving forward. They crafted the simulation, took them, I think, 2 business days, and then they deployed it same day. Because these days, when you deploy something, it's just a matter of assigning it to them, and then people logging in and running it. So, I mean, imagine trying to make that kind of process change without AI. I mean, it would take forever. But here it's just a couple of keystrokes.
That's amazing. So you've definitely given me a lot to think about. For the audience's benefit, SymTrain does have a proprietary AI that we use, right? We are building our own models. So you can think of, ChatGPT as idea of what, you know, AI can do for you, but the tools that we're learning or that we're developing are absolutely contact center specific for our businesses to help them do that, what they need to do, right? And focus on these 3 phases of the call really efficiently. So you're not going to see AI like this anywhere else. And you're not going to see anybody like Melanie anywhere else either, which is why I'm so happy to have had you on the call today, Melanie. This has been a really whirlwind half an hour, and I'm very excited that I got to spend it with you. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Erin.
Awesome. And I hope to catch everybody else on the next episode of Sit Down with SymTrain. I'm Erin Wilson. Have a wonderful day.